What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel today. I hope you're all having a fantastic start to your Friday. Although I'm recording this at the beginning of Friday, who knows when this is actually going to go up. Anyway, welcome to the bottom line. This is episode number 12, I believe it is already. And I've got a lot of stuff to cover today. There was a lot that happened this week, a lot of new stuff that came to the game. Before we get into all of that, though, I do want to mention this past Monday, we had the first episode of the Bottom Line Uncut, which is basically a follow-up episode to the previous Friday's episode, where it's an open mic. Anybody who's in the chat, because we do it live stream, can jump into the Discord server, can jump on the microphone and give their opinion about the topics and issues and things that are discussed in today's or in the previous Friday's episode. So the things that I will cover today, we will talk about again on this coming Monday's episode. Look for that right at 12 Central, 1 Eastern. We'll open up the mic to get the opinions from you guys, plus anything that's happened over the weekend. If there's any big announcement or any issues you guys want to talk about that is not covered in today's episode. As I mentioned, there was a lot of new content that came out this week. This past Wednesday, we had patch... I want to say it was 16.1. Does that sound right? 16.1 or 17.0, something like that. Either way, it brought a lot of new content to the channel, all based around the M.O.D.O.K event, the M.O.D.O.K lab, the M.O.D.O.K hotel. Brought along a new Uncollected difficulty, which I gotta say, I think of all the updates that we've had in the recent history I can think of, this is probably one of the best ones. I don't know if that is just because, you know, they're hyping everything up or moving into, you know, 2018, the introduction of 6-star characters. And I think everybody had kind of speculated that as we get closer to that, you will see more and more 5-star shards and things that you can use to upgrade your 5-star characters. Those will become more available as the 6 stars kind of take their place as the highest ranking characters, and as 4 stars kind of move down into that 3-star slot. So while I am a big fan of all the content and all of the rewards being passed out, I'm not necessarily surprised by it. One thing that I will recommend, though, is that you take as much and as full advantage of all the rewards as you possibly can. The M.O.D.O.K lab is actually quite a bit of fun. I'm not finding myself really re-rolling a lot. You know, I take in at least 2 rank 4 5-star characters and a couple 550s, bring in, you know, some immunities, power control, all that stuff, and I can usually get through just about everything. It's only, I want to say, 6 fights. So even if you die once or twice, you've still got enough characters to get through all that stuff. But I guess all I'm saying is that the lab is an excellent place to pick up a lot of rewards, 5-star shards, T2 alpha, T4 basic shards, all of that stuff as you prepare yourself moving into 2018. So as much as you can, try to get in there every 8 hours and pick that up. I will say thank you, Kabam. I think 8 hours feels like a good kind of cooldown. The Valhalla event with the bounty quest, it just happened too often, and I realized if the rewards would have been on par with the lab, I'm sure I would have done it more, but it just got way too repetitive and became way too much of a chore. So I think every 8 hours is good because it gives you a good break, and then you naturally would log in, you know, to do your spot in AQ or AW or do some arena. And while you're in there, you go ahead and do the lab. So even if you can't do like the most difficult challenge in the lab, make sure you are doing the highest difficulty as possible that fits your roster without having to spend a bunch of units to get through it and take full advantage of those rewards. The Uncollected difficulty, this is the first time that we have seen anything past the Heroic and Master difficulty for the special monthly event, and I'm very happy to see that. The nice thing is also that it does not take you getting through the lower difficulties before you can get in there. You just have to be Uncollected, and I believe level 40 to do that. But that is a welcome change. Really, really do like to see that. There are very good rewards associated with that. I believe there's also a title associated with it the first time. Getting full completion and exploration in that will reward a title. I don't think further Uncollected difficulties will do that per the forums. Go check that out if you want to fact check me on that. But yeah, it seems to have gone smoothly. I think the only little hiccup was the Ice Phoenix character, which I did not do the Uncollected version when the game first opened up on Wednesday. I was doing the lesser version because I was just trying to quickly get through that and get to Taskmaster and M.O.D.O.K to be able to kind of see them firsthand. get a good feeling for them. So I have been kind of working my way through Uncollected off the live stream, and I think I'm about halfway through it right now. And the version of the Ice Phoenix that I'm dealing with is a much lesser version that I think people were dealing with when they first jumped in there. So I guess I'm okay with the fact that they were so quick to change it. You know, I can easily say that because I didn't have to experience it firsthand. Had I experienced the difficulty firsthand, I probably would have been crying for it too. I don't know. I think maybe they were a bit too quick to jump on that change. I don't know. Maybe I should leave that to Monday's conversation in the chat on Monday for people that actually went in there and fought her, because I did not see how difficult that was and I did not play her. So I don't know. Maybe I'll leave I'll leave that topic for the chat on Monday to see what you guys think about that, whether they should have changed it or not. As far as the new characters that came to the game, I spent quite a bit of time in Wednesday's live stream looking at both Taskmaster and M.O.D.O.K, which I was fairly hyped for Taskmaster. Just kind of the pre-release, not pre-release, but the pre-data mine kind of information that we were looking at kind of led me to believe that he was going to be a really strong utility character and looked like he was going to have fairly decent damage output as well. While I think that he is a good character, after having played against him, read through the official abilities, and having seen several other videos that people have made in the content creator program, I'm not so hyped on him. I think he would make a very good addition to a newer to mid-level player in the game. But as far as kind of an end game roster, I just don't see a real strong fit for him on anybody's roster. It is really nice that he's got such strong ability reduction and defensive ability reduction just built right into him, basically just doing a regular fight. As the enemy does light, medium, heavy attacks and specials, it reduces their ability accuracy without you doing anything. And then as you use light, medium, heavies and specials, it reduces their defensive abilities. Which then that is multiplied and built on with his awakened ability by putting the exploit weakness and the concussions. It further amplifies that. So that's really cool. I enjoy the way that they have like creatively changed how ability reduction is worked into a character, and I actually really like the way that his exploit weakness plays. I just don't think that necessarily the time that it takes to play that character correctly, the overall outcome kind of outweighs bringing him in over other characters who do similar things, who have better damage and are much more simplistic to play, which is a shame because I think he looks amazing. I wish that maybe if they were going to go just straight utility and not so much damage, that they would go all utility, like give him all that reduction and then maybe also give him some sort of maybe minor power control or heal block or something like that. Because to pair him with ability reduction is nice, but then not to have that propped up by a decent amount of damage or something else to make him full utility. Like I said, I just don't see a great spot for him. If you need somebody to lower ability accuracy, kind of the go-to right now for that is Archangel. It's really easy to set up once he's awakened with the neurotoxins. You've got reduction to ability accuracy, plus you've got that paired with really strong damage as long as the character is not immune to poisons and bleeds. Plus he's got the heal block that's built into all that. So ability reduction, you're going to use Archangel. If you need defensive ability reduction, there are so many other characters in the skill class that do that, I think, a tiny bit better, or at least on par, without nearly the complexity of working that all together. If you look at a character like Gwenpool, when she's awakened, her defensive ability reduction is just built into her regular combo as you're attacking into the enemy. You don't have to do anything special. Just as you're attacking, you've got amazing damage that's happening. Plus, you've got defensive ability reduction, which that one takes a little bit of time to ramp up. But again, the damage output is just so much greater without having to kind of wait and time everything together. You've also got Electra in the skill class, which Electra doesn't get a lot of love these days, not as much as she used to. But whenever there's a debuff on the enemy, there's an 85% reduction for defensive ability accuracy. It's fairly easy to keep those debuffs up. And then one of my favorites right now is Crossbones. I really enjoy playing with Crossbones. It's very easy to keep Furies up. I think every Fury you have up is like 20 or 22% defensive ability reduction, which if you start the fight, just swipe back and hold down block. You get like 60, 65, 66% ability reduction right off the top. And basically every time you do a 5-hit combo, you're going to be gaining more Fury, so it keeps that going. And his damage output is very good. I guess all I'm trying to say is I really do like Taskmaster from an aesthetic point of view. I'm not sure if that's the word I was looking for. I couldn't even, it was like stuck in my mouth. An aesthetic point of view, basically his visuals, he looks really cool, and I like the way that you play with him. I just don't think that, like I said, that the time to build up, kind of once you've reached his max abilities or potency, it doesn't really kind of swing him over top of any of those other characters that I mentioned. So, not that that's a shame. I mean, not every character has got to be, you know, game-breaking, game-changing, god tier. And like I said, I think anybody in mid-tier, lower tier for sure, but mid-tier, I think will still find a lot of usefulness out of him. The other one would be M.O.D.O.K, which M.O.D.O.K is like the exact opposite. Like, I do not like, it's personal preference. I'm sure some people think he looks awesome. I think he looks so utterly ridiculous that I'm not sure I could bring myself to play with him. I don't know, man. He's like, I don't know. It's like you take the hover jet of Green Goblin, you turn Howard the Duck's suit into a giant face, and you stick them together, and that's what you've got. He just looks kind of clunky. I don't know. I'm sure, like I said, that is kind of beauty's all in the eye of the beholder kind of thing. So I'm sure some people were really hyped and excited to see him, but I don't know. I'm not that big of a fan. I think he looks and he is going to be quite a difficult defender to fight against because of that auto block. I think is going to mess up a lot of people. And his heavy attack, especially if he gets you in a corner and there's not a whole lot you can do about it. Maybe if you're trying, you know, not to push him into a special, if he fires off that heavy while you're in a corner, that thing is going to be very, very difficult to work around. So I can foresee him being a very good defender. I'm not sure if his offensive abilities, again, outweigh other characters that you would want to take in. But nonetheless, it is good to see a science character in the game. It's been since, what, 2000, I think in 2016 when we had Quake come to the game. So it's very, very long overdue. My personal opinion is I would not spend 15,000 5-star shards on either one of these characters. Again, that is all personal preference, but I don't see anything there that would make me want to go after them. The only thing is, if you're trying, you know, there are a lot of really solid sub-featured characters in those crystals, so I could see maybe if your idea was going to pop to 15,000 to try to get, you know, Blade or Starkey or, I don't know, Morningstar or something like that. I guess I could understand that reasoning, but I guess to each his own. Speaking of defense, Alliance War defense, that is. Yes, Alliance War is back in the news, and you all know how much I just absolutely love talking about Alliance Wars. I think at least this time around we've got something positive to talk about. I'm not going to go through each of the individual changes because basically if you add them all up, it basically just means that skill is being brought back into the game. It matters now when you die, which means you want to play your best, which means you want to place your best defenders. The long and short of it is that I feel like I was just talking about this, I think 2 weeks ago on the podcast, is that I just, how do I want to put this? I'm excited to see that Alliance War is now back to what it was before. Don't get me wrong there. I'm very excited about that. It has such an effect on all the other parts of the game as far as who you rank up, who you go for, who you spend time trying to get, who you spend resources on. That is Alliance War is now a big, big factor in all of that, and it was not for several months there. So I am excited to see that back. I don't know. I'm scratching my head. It's like, why did we have to go through this whole giant circle just to get back to essentially what we had before? Which I don't want to linger on this topic because I've already spent so much time on it, but it's in the news, so I'm gonna, I guess, bring it up again here. But you know, the long and short of it is they didn't necessarily come right out and say you're getting defender kills, but that essentially is what we are back to. which I don't know if it was just their stubbornness or if they truly thought that the direction that they were going in was going to result in a better game. But now, having gone through this whole thing and now coming back and then making the change to what it was before, I just don't understand. Like, people were saying, and I wish I should have gone back before I did this and pulled up the old clip, you know, when they announced 15.0, that they were moving defender kills. I mean, the community was on top of how that was going to affect the game overall from day one. And if we're just right back to it, like, why did it take so long? Anyway, I guess I'm just going to be happy that we are back to where we were. And I suppose the thing to do now is to enjoy having it back and just try to give some constructive feedback and ideas on how we can now take the version that we all wanted and continue to push it forward and make it a more enjoyable, better experience long term. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm sure on Monday in the uncut version with the open mic, there will be many people with opinions on that. So I do look forward. I've talked enough about it. I nauseate myself a little bit just hearing myself talk about it again. So I'm just going to move forward. I think the next thing that this kind of leads into is, now that we've got Alliance War at least kind of back to where we wanted it to be to begin with, you know, what is the next big thing that we should kind of push for from Kabam, and what we should look for from Kabam? And I don't have any insider information. No idea what their actual plans are. But on my personal wish list, I guess I should say, since it's Christmas time, it's a good time for wish lists. But I would like to see an effort put forward to bring more balance to the game, to the characters in the game. And I don't necessarily have a great solution for that right off the top of my head. I just wrote down on my list here character balance. So I'm just kind of spitballing at this point, but I think there's a couple of different ways you could do that. One, I think that you either need to remove class masteries altogether, because clearly Mystic, the class mastery for Mystic is so far ahead of all the other ones that I think to try to buff up the other class masteries to meet Mystic Dispersion, I think might break the game altogether. So you either need to lower Mystic Dispersion and maybe buff the others slightly to meet them somewhere in the middle, or just remove them altogether. But I think one of the best ways that we can see balance is by allowing the unique synergies that we're seeing, which I can't remember what the first character was that we saw that with. Was it Stark Spider-Man? No, maybe it was Punisher. Was it Punisher 2099? It was somewhere right around that time period is when we started seeing the introduction of unique synergies with characters. And honestly, I don't want to say that's like a lazy way to buff characters, but it's not truly addressing the issue. Like, a lot of these characters, they do need buffs, which is why you're seeing them through the synergies. But the issue is that, you know, you have to bring that character for the synergy, and they may not necessarily be a part of the roster, you know, that fits. For instance, we've got a buff to Hawkeye that is built into the Taskmaster character. And while Hawkeye is a very useful character because of his very easy to use and strong power drain, I felt like he was a tiny bit underwhelming as far as his damage output goes, especially since his hemorrhage could only fire off once. I'd always thought if you could build those hemorrhages towards a much more substantial bleed, he would be a better character, a stronger character, more viable. Not that he isn't already, but I really felt like he needed that buff. So instead of having to bring along Taskmaster to get that extra hemorrhage whenever you fire off your S3, I would like to see there within the character profile itself, and probably this should not be for all characters, but maybe with the introduction of 6 stars in the abilities page, maybe have some abilities that you would normally see as unique synergies that are there that still have to be unlocked. Like, you wouldn't necessarily get it whenever you pull, let's say, Hawkeye, you know, from your 6-star crystal. He wouldn't have that additional hemorrhage with his S3. However, as you play with the character, and maybe there are many ways you can do this. You could link it to maybe you know, how many fights you win with Hawkeye, or maybe once you reach their max signature level, or maybe even make it part of like a special arena that runs, you know, once a month or every 2 weeks or something. There is a resource within those arenas that you are going after that you can then use to craft and open up these unique abilities within inside of these characters to help buff them up a little bit. But really, I think this all kind of ties into the fact that leading into 2018, with the introduction of 6-star characters, I really hope it kind of stops there, which I understand that content will continue to progress and will continue to get more difficult. But I'm a big proponent of, rather than seeing, you know, 7 stars coming to the game and then have to get the same character that I've already got as a 5 and 6 star, now as a 7 star, I would prefer to be able to use, you know, my in-game characters already, my 6 stars, and kind of move them forward in the game. And maybe that's one way to do it, instead of a gearing system. As you progress with this character, there are more and more things that will unlock that maybe could give them more health or more attack power, or maybe some of these unique, what we see as synergies, unique abilities built into them. And that would allow much more, a much quicker change in a character. Instead of having to do like a full breakdown and rebuild of a character, you know, with the new patch that's coming up, let's say the next one is, I don't know, let's say it's 17.0 coming up. You know, we see that, yeah, let's say Groot is underperforming and Colossus is underperforming. You know, these unique synergies that they've been adding to the game, you know, in future content, maybe with the patch, we can see an update to this new ability with inside the character that you can unlock. You know, and I think moving forward, that would allow the developers to play with those abilities up and down to make balance changes as are needed. Again, not necessarily to make these characters, you know, god tier necessarily, but just help to bring more balance to the game so that more characters can be used. And honestly, so, you know, new people that are coming into the game, they don't get handicapped by having, you know, pulled their first couple of 4 or 5 stars, having pulled bad characters, and now they're really limited. Not that they can't do it, but it just becomes so much more difficult to do content that other people who are in the same position, who pulled, you know, Blade or Stark Spider-Man, are easily getting through. So balance is kind of what I would like to see brought to the game. I'm sure there are many ideas on how that could be done. That's just one very basic one that I thought of just kind of off the top of my head there. So as I've said with every other topic, I'm very much looking forward to see what everybody's opinions are on that this coming Monday. And as we come to the end of another year, this is going to mark the 3-year anniversary for the game, and 3 years since I've been playing the game. But I don't think we can really look forward to the future without first kind of looking back, not necessarily at all 3 years, but at least looking back at 2017, kind of the highs and the lows, which I think there's probably a wide range of answers here, but I'll just give you mine. My personal high point is probably gonna be a little bit of a head scratcher when I first say it, but I honestly think 12.0 was the highlight of the calendar for me. And not that I necessarily agreed with everything that happened in 12.0, but I had a lot of fun in 12.0. I saw the necessity and the need to nerf Scarlet Witch. She was breaking the game. So while I hated to see my favorite character and the character that I used for everything, you know, be just kind of torn to pieces, it was necessary. Same thing to a lesser degree with Thor. Thor was hitting way too hard. Doctor Strange, I didn't agree with that one, but anyway, that's kind of all separate from the part that I enjoyed. The part that I enjoyed is we got brand new setups for Winter Soldier, Hulk, Punisher. We saw some new animations come to the game. And honestly, I loved rank down tickets. I know, again, that people kind of either love or hate the idea of rank down tickets, but I personally had so much fun in 12.0, you know, ranking down characters and ranking up characters that I, you know, would never ever in a million years think of putting resources into. But because of the rank down tickets, I was able to do that, play around with them, do some testing, get some video footage, and then be able to take them back down and put them into the resources kind of where they should be. But, you know, I don't know. That's probably a very unique time in the game. I'm not sure we'll ever see anything like that come again. But honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. There was a lot of screaming and yelling that took place for very good reasons. I understand all of that. But when all was said and done, I actually look back at 12.0 with kind of fond memories. There were some growing pains. I think overall the game is better for having gone through 12.0. But for me, it may seem kind of backwards, but that was probably the highlight of the calendar for me in 2017. As far as the low light, the low point for me in 2017, I think had to have been the announcement of the change to Alliance Wars. Was that 15.0? It just, I don't know, I think everybody kind of speculated and thought kind of as soon as we were reading through the changes that this was not necessarily going to be a positive move, I think, as much as what Kabam thought it was going to be. Forced diversity, it made for just a very numb experience. It didn't matter really how well or how poorly you played when it comes down to, you know, how highly rated are your defenders, how many different defenders do you have, and not just that, but I mean it severely and dramatically, I can't believe how quickly it did, but it just affected kind of all the decision making that you make in the game, like who you were going to rank up, you know, who to spend your resources on, whether or not, you know, if a character looked like a good defender, if you were going to spend time you know, in the arena trying to get them, or spend resources and units trying to get them out of crystals. And all of that just kind of went out the door. And honestly, I was very, very close on several occasions to just walking away from MCOC, because as much as I enjoy the community aspect of it, it was becoming a chore to log in and spend time in the game. And I don't know, it's a video game, you know, it's supposed to get you away from reality, and you're supposed to enjoy your time playing it. And it was basically the opposite. It was not fun. It was a chore and a headache to go in and to play. So that very easily for me was kind of the low point of 2017. I think the last thing that I will leave you with as something to think about over the weekend as we move into Monday's show we can talk about is what keeps you coming back, you know, as we move into the fourth year of MCOC. Many of you, like myself, have been playing for multiple years. I think I have my reasoning, but I will save that until Monday's show. So that is something you can think about as far as your answer. And look very much forward to kind of talking to everybody on Monday. If you're unfamiliar with how you can join the chat on Monday, if you go down to the description of this video, you'll find a link to my Discord server. Within that Discord server, there is a voice chat, and during the show, I will open that up. I think right now there are 20 spots, so me and 19 other people, I think is how it goes. There's 19 spots available. So just jump in there if you got something that you want to add or contribute or have a question. You know, jump right in there if there's an open spot. I will say that if you've been, please don't go into the chat, the microphone, go into the voice chat and just sit there. If you're just going to sit there, you can do that in the live stream by watching it on YouTube. So if you want to hang out and just listen and you know, contribute here and there, that's fine. But if you're just in there hanging out and keeping a spot of somebody else who might want to jump in, please don't do that. I don't want to have to kick anybody out. Anywho, hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hopefully it was a good distraction and background noise if you happen to be going after, you know, Taskmaster or Star-Lord in the arena right now. Wish you the best of luck, and hope everybody gets who they're after. Hope nobody lands on Mr. 801. If you do, let me know. I'll send you a t-shirt. Nope, don't do that. I won't send you a t-shirt. That was a lie. I'm sorry. I love you all. Have a fantastic weekend. Stay safe till I see you all in the live stream. Peace!